Blessed are you, God, knower of secrets. Every single one of us has secrets. Here's one of mine. I went in for a routine procedure, but a minor complication meant that the surgery took longer, was more invasive, and required me to stay overnight in the hospital, a first for me. I felt alone and unsure, even with my husband Noah there with me. I told no one beyond my family that I was going in for surgery. The thought that someone might look at me with pity was too much, especially because I like to think of myself as strong and capable. I didn't want to need things from others or be treated differently. I felt too vulnerable to share. At least that's what went through my head as I found myself in the hospital, frustrated, lonely, and anxious. The recovery would be longer and harder than anticipated. I texted a few friends who came to visit, brought food, and checked in. I was overwhelmed with their generosity when I didn't even realize I needed them. As I told more people what happened, they were surprised because they had no idea. Many asked what they could do. I said nothing and moved on. I know I'm not the only one who's endured something challenging that was difficult to share. I'm guessing that many of us have had a similar experience or know family or friends who have. Some of us have lost jobs. Some of us struggle with mental or physical well-being. Some of us have been in unhealthy relationships. Before we ask for help, though, we must acknowledge that we're struggling and we might benefit from support. Then, we ask on this day of vulnerability, are we being honest with ourselves? As we sit here today, what are we keeping hidden? In her novel, Lacuna, Barbara Kingsolver wrote that the most important thing about a person is the thing you don't know about them. Yom Kippur challenges us to reveal what we've kept hidden, the cancer diagnosis we're afraid to share, lest others look upon us with pity, the chronic pain we hide not wanting to appear weak, the paralyzing anxiety we mask so we don't seem incompetent. Each of us, all of us, struggles silently and all too often alone. Whatever it is inside us, we carry it, always. In an opinion piece in the New York Times, Sarah J. Winston wrote, "Whether or not we're aware of it, we all live in fragile bodies that require tremendous care and attention to detail and to function. Each and every one of us exists on a spectrum of illness, often dipping in and out of it. And yet, we also exist in a culture where it is taboo to talk about being sick. We're all on that spectrum." On Rosh Hashanah it is written, on Yom Kippur it is sealed, who shall live and who shall die? These words remind us that we live in a liminal space between elements of contentment and struggle, of life and death. All of us vacillate between being tranquil and troubled, facing metaphorical fire and water. Each of our lives oscillate between these truths. At this time of year, though, we become more aware of them and therefore more attuned to others and to ourselves. Our tradition also recognizes the power that comes when another breaks through our barriers and shows up in support and love. A story is told in the Talmud about Rabbi Yochanan, who went to visit Rabbi Eliezer, who was sick and dying. Rabbi Yochanan sat with Rabbi Eliezer, taking his hand to help pull him out of his suffering. Rabbi Yochanan's mere presence was uplifting. That small act of reaching out his hand, our tradition teaches, healed Rabbi Eliezer. Many members of our Temple Israel community have faced their own challenges, losses, and pain, some of them invisible. All of us, though, have the potential to be like Rabbi Yochanan, who showed up in love and support, and in the process helped heal. I'd like to share modern versions of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yochanan, stories from our own community. Sarah and Jeff tried to get pregnant and discovered fertility obstacles. The couple began IVF, but faced many hurdles. Throughout the process, Sarah desired connection, but struggled to ask for it because she didn't want to talk about what she was going through. It felt too raw. One day, a friend came over for a walk, and Sarah wished she could share that things had been hard recently. She wanted to hear her friend say, "I know you're struggling and it sucks. We don't need to talk about it, but when you're ready, or if you're ready, I'm here to listen. I care about you so much." Sarah desperately wanted to feel seen and heard without obligation for her to talk about her pain. Finally, after months of waiting, Sarah and Jeff had embryos ready for transfer. 9 months later, their daughter was born. Infertility and pregnancy loss are devastating for many couples today. Yet, they are considered taboo and often experienced quietly. We know or learn what to do as a friend when someone dies, for Judaism has rituals surrounding how we show up after death. We know what role we play at the funeral or the Shiva afterwards. We know we are there to witness and be there for the living. We don't necessarily have established rituals for what to do when someone suffers from depression, infertility, divorce, among myriad other things. But in reality, we do have a ritual. It's called showing up. It's called asking what is on our friend's heart, not just how they are. It's called bringing dinner to someone you love on a random Tuesday. It's called making time to play a game, or take a walk, or call a friend going through a hard time. By performing these rituals of kindness, we demonstrate to those we love that we care. That is a gift that we can offer them. Sarah and Jeff's story reminds us that connection is the most important gift and way we can show up. When we don't try to solve a friend's larger problem, we can simply be present for one another. We further understand how to enact this ritual and these rituals from Letty Cotton Pogrebin, who teaches that empathy translated into action equals kindness, and continues that we must remember to act and ask, or act and ask. It's not either or, it's both and. When we take our love for someone and act on it, we show them kindness. Not only that, we let the person for whom we are showing up determine what they need. We don't just say, "How are you? What do you need?" We provide specifics, exactly what we will do and when, in order to take the onus off the person in need to deal with the minutia of everyday life. We say, "I'm going to the grocery store. Give me your list, and I'll pick up what you need." The more we can ask and act, the better we can translate our empathy into compassion. Alex struggles with chronic illness and depression. Both strike without warning, and there are days she can't take her kids to school because getting herself out of the house is too much. She grew up hearing that depression was in her head. She was taught, "Power through your chronic illness." And the messages she received was that her struggles weren't valid. Alex worries that people will think she's faking, when in fact her brain chemistry causes very real challenges. Some days, all Alex wants is help. someone to drive her kids to school or somewhere, someone to bring dinner to her family because she has no strength to think about it or do it herself. Yet her internal voice chastises her not to be a burden, so she doesn't ask. When a friend noticed Alex was getting her kids to school late, she asked if she could drive them for a few days. Alex was both embarrassed and immensely grateful. Until they asked, her friend had no idea Alex needed support because Alex didn't want to burden them. Alex reminds us that comparing ourselves to others leaves us feeling more alone. When we instead let our vulnerability show through, others can and will show up. We learned from Alex that it's easy to assume that others are fine when their challenge is invisible. When we genuinely care about someone, we can ask not how they are, but how they feel today, specifically today. We normalize our friends' experience by honoring where they are, not where we want them to be. For those of us struggling privately, this change allows our pain to emerge because the specificity of the question takes a potentially overwhelming query and makes it feel more manageable. And for us, the question is a reminder that we too likely have pain simmering below the surface that we could benefit from sharing. Another way to ask this is, what's on your heart? By reframing the question, we remove the pressure to answer that we're fine and instead make space for a genuine answer. When we share that we're having a hard day, we normalize opening up and making it safer for others to share. We can support others by creating a safe space for any answer they might give. Alan is an alcoholic who first drank socially. A few drinks turned into multiple drinks each day. Everything seemed fine until one day at work, he got bad news and asked a buddy to go get a drink at 11 in the morning. The buddy said, "Alan, you have a problem." His wife told him the same thing. His behavior was exceedingly self-destructive. After hearing from both of them, Alan went to Alcoholics Anonymous, AA. Through AA, he realized he was drinking in order to avoid family challenges. He was stuck, keeping feelings inside and numbing them. He feared being vulnerable or able to solve his problems. Alan needed non-judgmental help as he searched for the light to climb out of the darkness of addiction. For him, a combination of his friends, wife, and AA helped him find the light and the way out, just as you and I can with those in our lives who are struggling. Today, let us commit to being that light for someone in the coming year. Many of us may see ourselves or our loved ones in these narratives, where a small moment or gesture made a radical impact. We often feel alone, unsure of where to turn, who to ask for help. As each of us experiences our own struggles, we know even more intimately the need to ask for help and for others to show up for us. How powerful is it when each of us can reach out our hand to someone else, like Rabbi Yochanan did for Rabbi Eliezer, bringing them to a place of greater comfort and support. I'm still learning. Just this week, a friend noticed that I had a cold and appeared stressed out. She asked what she could do to help if she could send dinner. Instead of accepting her offer of love, I demurred. Accepting help is hard. She generously sent me a Grubhub gift card, knowing I couldn't reject it. We're all learning to accept and give help. As these high holidays begin to draw to a close and our lives recenter around the activities that fill our days, we might selectively forget the challenges we faced in the past year or years past. I invite us, instead, to remember. In doing so, we can harness our own history and use it to show up for each other. Show up for someone in need, encourage them to do so as well. May we form a community of people who care, sharing our stories and secrets in a real way so that each of us feels seen and heard. Together, let us heal.
Shema